This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. This is Scicloj AI meeting number 7. And today we will focus on Calva Backseat Driver by Peter Stromberg, who is here with us and will speak in a moment. And we are 10 people at the moment, maybe a couple more will join in a moment. And that will be our main focus today. It will be an interactive session. We are recording, and only later on we will decide whether the recording should or shouldn't be public. We hope everybody will be comfortable to ask and propose and create in this meeting. So if anybody thinks we should stop recording at any time, just please tell me and I stop recording, right? And we will just present ourselves, just say something about ourselves as we usually do, and then we will begin with the session. And at the end, we may have another follow-up on the previous session on this topic of annotating libraries with Eden files. So, but that's not the high priority for today. Yeah, so maybe let us begin. Maybe Jarkko, would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Jarkko. You can hear me, I guess? Yeah, all right. I'm Jarkko from Finland, and I've been programming with Clojure a little bit on the side for maybe 10 years and mostly work with PHP and Python stuff, but constantly interested to use Clojure more recently. And something about this day's topic, I've been myself using Aider quite a bit recently for very basic level PHP stuff, for example. I've been finding it really useful, almost like 95% of like very boilerplate stuff I can write with that, and it's kind of making mundane things much more interesting. And regarding Calva, I use Emacs mostly, but I've been playing a bit with Calva regarding the PHP Pell Lisp. I did like an unREPL client connection to that from Calva, so I don't know a little bit about that. And of course, I was like kind of trying to keep up a little bit how the mainstream editor works, because working with other people, that makes things a little bit easier to have some common ground. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And Ian, hello, Ian. Would you like to say something?
Hello, I'll just say hello and then move on.
Oh, you're familiar to many people. Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks so much. Hello, Steve. Would you like to say something about yourself?
Good morning. I'm Steve. I'm in outside of Dripping Springs, Texas, and my day job is mostly Fortran and C#, and I get to use a little bit of Clojure on the side in personal projects.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hello, Phil. Would you like to say something?
Well, the more I learn, the less I feel I know. And this series is helping me approach the point where I feel I know nothing at all.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, and Nurula says that the machine cannot use the mic, so just wish to say hello. Thanks for writing. And Lutke, hello, would you like to say something?
Hello, my name is Ludger. I'm from Germany, near Stuttgart. I'm a software architect at day job, not programming much there, but I really like Clojure in my personal project since 2011. I'm using Calva mostly, and I'm the creator of OverArc, a tool to model system architectures with Eden data and visualize them.
Yeah, thank you so much. By the way, sometimes your sound is better, sometimes.
Okay.
No. Yeah, thanks. About myself, my background is math and statistics. My name is Daniel. Sometimes I do statistics and geography in Clojure, sometimes not. And yeah, hello, Thomas. Would you like to say something?
Hi, thanks. I'm from the Czech Republic. I studied informatics 30 years ago, and then I became a book publisher. So I publish nonfiction books, and I found coding attractive and especially Clojure like something I really love. So 4 years ago, so I started with some just hobby projects, and now I am after two lectures on my alma mater, University of Machine Learning. We did everything in Python, and I have to say I don't know any other programming language, just Clojure. That's strange, I think. I remember only Pascal, from my years. So I am now trying to make the data science work in Clojure too, and I try to implement some or to create some models for just playing with that, but trying to create models that could predict, for example, bestsellers, in our industry. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Can you teach me to say your name?
It's easy. It's Tomáš. Thomas.
Tomáš.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Hello, Henning.
Good afternoon. I'm Henning. I'm from Norway. I work part-time Clojure in work and full-time at home. I have commercial applications I maintain and evolve, and I work on side projects in data science. I've adopted Emacs as a religion more than anything, but I'm very curious to see VS Code and Calva for the purpose I have coworkers that need help to at least peek into the data science part of what we can do with Clojure. And VS Code is a nice way for people to observe what Clojure can do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and hello, Peter. Peter is probably familiar to everybody as the Calva creator, the creator of Calva and many other things. But if you wish, Peter, to say something about yourself, about how you have been and so on, that would be lovely. And then we just continue with the talk.
Yeah. So I'm the Calva guy, and for me, Clojure is what brought me back to programming. I was like on a detour as a product manager and things like that for 10 years or so when I found Clojure, and I just want to code. So and I'm fortunate to have an employer that I'm employed at the consultancy, and they let me do open source 20% of my time without reducing my salary. So and then when I take contracts, my customers know that they share me like with my open source project. So I get I'm lucky. I get to work with Clojure script mostly as my profession, and then of course Clojure in my side projects, except Calva, which is a lot of TypeScript. yeah. That's me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I guess we can just begin and dive into Backseat Driver. And I'll just remind everybody, this is an interactive session, and you can just use your voice or write something in the chat if you wish to ask anything.
Yes. So there was curiosity about Calva, but I guess that's another session. So today it will be this Calva backseat driver that we will be looking at, and as Daniel says, interactive. So just feel encouraged to interrupt me and ask and make this more of a discussion than a talk. But it is one question that's on my mind when it comes to this, and it has been on my mind for a while. And this: can we turn the AI agent into an interactive programmer? Can we make it like understand, so to speak, the value of feedback it gets from the application it is building together with me? So that is my main question. And then I want to go, this is like a list of topics in no particular order, since I want this to be interactive. But anyway, look at what Backseat Driver is and why I built it and what tools it provides for us. I will make a demo, and maybe most of the time will be spent demoing, like together, like exploring what it can do. I don't know, but at least one demo I prepared, where prepared means that I don't know what's going to happen because the AI agent will take it. Yeah. So of course, giving the REPL to the AI agent is connected with risks, as I would maybe express it. So there are like two ways you can let it do that. Like, you look at everything it wants to do and you approve it, and that can be a bit tedious, but it gets maybe much more effective if you just let it run with the REPL. But what does that mean? I want us to discuss that. And Backseat Driver is very new, so there are not many experience reports around it. I know Sean Corfield has been trying it, and yeah, we will have to ask him, I guess, for his experience. And I have been playing with it. I'm not a big AI agent user myself, so my users had been more of trying, like playing with it to see what it can do. So I haven't really used it in anger, I would say. But I will, of course, share the experiences that I have so far. And yeah, where should I take Backseat Driver next? So I want your input on that. And also, we could, since Backseat Driver is a CoPilot extension, but it's also an MCP, Model Context Protocol server. And yeah, we could talk about that if people are, yeah, if there's something we together want to explore about MCP as such. And there are also other closure REPL tools in the AI space that we could have a look at them as well. Does it sound good as a plan?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So Backseat Driver, it is like the shortest way to describe it is that it is a VS Code extension that gives CoPilot closure programming tools. But it can also be used as an MCP server. So if you're using Aider or Cursor or Windsurf or whatever, then you can still use Backseat Driver via the MCP protocol. And it's built with ClojureScript. I just mentioned that because it's if you're curious about extending VS Code, it is a Clojure JavaScript environment, like a Node environment. So it's very, very, ClojureScript is very, very good there. So if you want an example extension built purely in ClojureScript, you can have a look at this extension and some other extensions also that we've done, that I built. And of course, I haven't built Backseat driver into Calva. Instead, it is a Calva extension. So it's using Calva's extension APIs. So it's a separate extension. And the focus for my has been this question: can we make it the AI an interactive programmer? So the most exciting tools in here is the ones providing the AI feedback, right? So that's the main focus I have had. And yeah, so why did I build this? So it's actually my second take on this. And my first take was also called Backseat driver. I just like the names, I kept it. And the first Backseat driver was a Joyride script. So it was not an extension. It was a user space script. So giving VS Code as an alternative to CoPilot. That was actually what it was. So back then, 2 years ago, something like that, then CoPilot didn't have any way to give it context. It was just a chat prompt, and every interaction with CoPilot started with like you trying to describe your context and stuff like that around it. So my first Backseat driver take was this. That was focusing on automatically providing the AI with context about my namespace, about my current form, about the project and stuff like that. So, and it was very much like focused, of course, since it was a closure focus on it. It was focused on closure context. And my main goal back then with that was to see if I could make ChatGPT, which I was using by my API key, if I could make it an interactive programmer. But I never added the REPL then because I ran out of time, focused on other stuff. So I dropped this work on this script then before I could actually explore if it could use the REPL. But then recently, the MCP protocol arrived, and at some point I discovered that it arrived, and I thought MCP was super exciting as a concept. So I started to build an MCP server for Calva, and my first tool that I put into that MCP server was the REPL. And then I realized that I could actually build a CoPilot extension from this and keep the MCP part. So that's what Backseat driver is. It's this both CoPilot extension and MCP server.
Maybe,
of course,
maybe
yes.
I'll stop you for a moment if it is a good moment. So yeah, we did have a few meetings focusing on MCP, but maybe somebody here is new to that. So could we just say what MCP is roughly, like, in a couple of sentences, if that's okay?
Yeah, it's a bit it's a
Yeah.
bit of a tall order, but yeah. So I see it as a protocol with which builders can give all AI agents new functionality. So that's at least for me, that's the most exciting part. So it means like if we wish that some AI agent that we are using, say CoPilot, should have some kind of functionality, say a closure REPL, then the MCP protocol lets me build one server with a defined protocol that all AI agents that are MCP clients can support. So I will provide this configuration for this server to say Cursor, and then Cursor will have new tools that my MCP server is providing. Most MCP servers are very thin, small wrappers, API wrappers around some services. And in Backseat Driver's case, it will be a small wrapper around Calva functionality. Is that?
That's very helpful. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. So, but when this time around, when I was getting back to this, the problem with context is mostly solved by CoPilot. It has excellent ways to auto discover context, and to that way I can provide it context files, links, everything. So I didn't need to solve that part this time around. Of course, there are still the thing with closure contexts. So I haven't addressed that, but maybe at some point we should. Like, is there some way we can give it specific contexts about that are closure specific? That might be an improvement. And instead, I could focus in this time on the feedback loop and the REPL tool, and also the output from the REPL, which is not just like results from your evaluations. It is also stuff that coming on standard error and standard output. And I could have built this into Calva, but for reasons, yeah, it's I choose to not do that. Instead, have this as a separate extension, mostly because as a user, I think it's nice to have this as completely opt-in thing in your closure development. So yeah, so it's a separate extension, and that makes it a bit some of the cycles adding features start with me having to add API to Calva, which is a good thing. So I'm sort of dog feeding the Calva API as well, doing this. Yeah, so the tools, if we look at the tools we have there, so there we have this the feedback tools, that I call them, the REPL and the output from the REPL. And if you're a Calva user, then Calva has this concept of output destinations. So you can tell Calva that I want REPL results to go to that destination. Say we have a REPL window, so maybe you want the results to go there, and I want standard output to go to the terminal, and I want maybe standard error also to go to the terminal, whatever. So you have this concept of output destination. So what this REPL output tool does, it takes these output categories and makes a feed from it that the AI can pull. And I think everyone that has tried AI with closure, and probably any Lisp, and actually it's not just Lisp, it's also in JavaScript and stuff like that. It has problems with the bracket balancing. So Backseat Driver also has a tool that the AI can use to balance up the brackets, given that the code is correctly indented. It will then be correctly bracket balanced. I'm using Parim for behind the scenes for this. It's a huge disappointment so far, but we'll get into that. But anyway, I think we can make this work, and it would be really great if we could solve it. And then it also has tools for looking up information about closure core stuff on closure.docs.org. And as a human, a user of a closure IDE, you often look up information about symbols, right, and the documentations for them and what arguments they take and stuff like that. So that's also provided to the AI through Backseat driver. So is this clear so far for you? It may be clearer if we go into a demo mode now. So let me know if you want.
Maybe one question.
Yes.
Is it just driving the chat, or is it also using, or can you use it in the editor windows?
Oh, that's a good question. It's up to the AI agent, I guess, in a sense, how it uses these tools. But there is no, as I've seen now, there is no interface in the editor to reach it. It's a bit hard actually to know what the UX in VS Code is not good here, I would say. But
And it's changing.
if I use sorry.
It's changing all the time.
Yeah, it's changing also, but it's also not clear. It's not really transparent what is going to happen. So if I use it in the editor, will it be actually polling the tools it has available or not? I actually don't know. So it's a very good question. But in theory, at least, there's nothing stopping it. I mean, it's tools that it can discover and choose to use. So it will be up to the AI agents. And maybe Cursor does it and CoPilot doesn't, stuff like that. So, any more questions? Then I can just we can make a quick demo, or a demo at least here. And for the demo to make sense, I can let you know that this slideshow that we have, it's actually a Joyride script running in VS Code. So it's not an extension, it's a Joyride script. And Joyride is an extension to VS Code that gives you the tools to hack VS Code in user space. So you can make VS Code, you can extend VS Code in user space. If you're an Emacs user, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Joyride is Emacsifying VS Code, I would say. So it's built by me and Borkdude. I've used that Joyride to give myself this slideshow here. It's a very simple thing, but I want to stay in VS Code when I present, so I have this tool. And I also have another thing for my slideshows, and you see here is a timer that I should use to track my time when I often forgot to use it. But there's also Joyride there, and we could look at. We're not going to read the code here, but anyway, this is the code that is being used to navigate my slides. So it's an Eden file that configures the slides, and then we can walk back and forth through them. So let's see if we can demo this then. Hi there. Do you think you can start the slider timer for me? So maybe what I missed to tell you is that Calva is now connected to the Joyride REPL here. So you see here, the timer has started because it started. Now it's trying to hide this chat window using this command, which is just hallucinated, so it can't do that. You need to use the REPL actually to use the VS Code commands. Stop. No. Okay, they can go on. So, thank you. Can you show me the topics slide? Mr. Richiki fan, that's me. Now it's reading the slides and showing the wrong slide here. I don't know why, but now it actually finds the topic slide. So, and now it also figure out how to close the chat window. So, yeah, now you're actually seeing Backseat driver tool being used to use the REPL. But see, we have some more interesting thing we can do. We have a slide tool here that lets me navigate back and forth in my slideshow, but I don't have any feature for showing me all the slides I have, so I can jump to whichever. Oh, let's see if we can get CoPilot to add that. I doubt it a bit, but maybe we'll see. Thank you. You think you can make quick pick menu with the slides, and the slide should have title and the file name and an icon. And if I pick a slide, it should show me that slide. Let's see what it does. What I wanted to do here is actually to start trying to do stuff in the REPL, maybe failing and then trying again. Choose a slide picker for you. Actually, it's not showing me a menu of the slides. Try a simpler approach. It often says that. There you have. So now we have created this extension of VS Code that shows me this menu. I don't know if it works, but we can see. We can go to this tools menu. Yeah, it actually works. So now it's a second take here. There are no icons here. Thank you. Yeah, I see the slide, the menu. So that was great. Yeah. So one more thing we could try. Yeah. So can you show me the code you wrote for this? I don't know why it's evaluating code now. It's a bit crazy. It's Claude. I'm using Claude 3.7 here because, yeah, so far it's the best experience with CoPilot, but it is a bit crazy. Okay, so it actually created a file for me.
So this file is a Joyride script. Is that right?
This file here is a Joyride script that shows us this slide picker. I don't know if we can try to use it. So if I load this
and
script
maybe just
here.
for those who've missed it, Joyride is a VS Code extension that can use ClojureScript to interact with VS Code itself.
Yeah, so it has access to the VS Code extension API, so it can extend VS Code. The difference with Joyride and other ways to do it is that you need to build an extension to do it. But here we're actually doing it while we are using. So we're doing it in closures in user space. So in theory now, if I evaluate this form here, it should show us the menu. It shows us something. Maybe that was his first try that we actually got the code for here. But when it evaluated things here, it didn't have a file, right? It's just evaluated things and created them in the REPL, right? So yeah, that's part of the experience report actually, how it actually uses the tools and how we want it to use the tools. But to me, it makes sense that it figure out the correct, in a sense, implementation in the REPL before it updates the files. But you could also think that it could actually explore this in rich comments forms. Maybe I've been trying that a bit as well, with not too much success. I would say actually see why this might be. No, I think this is the first try the title at the code. But in here, if we look at the code it evaluates in here, we will probably find the actual code it used for the picker that worked. So I will undo that.
Maybe trying to understand what actually happened and how difficult it is to do for anybody, including an LLM or an agent, sorry. Right, so the context was the existing slideshow, which is already a Joyride script. So it is already an example of using the Calva, the VS Code extension API in closure script.
Yep.
So the agent could use that to learn something beyond what it already knows, probably about VS Code and closure script and so on.
Yeah.
But that was the context.
That was the context. So it's a very important thing. You say that if you go ask ChatGPT about Joyride, it gives you a pretty good description of it. So it has read like the Joyride examples and stuff like that. But there is also one more part of this context here that we could look at. It's the CoPilot instructions. So these are the instructions it has in this workspace. So I'm telling it that it's helping me to demo Backseat driver. I don't know if it's following this link. But I have tried. And then I tell it about this code. I tell it a bit about the Joyride REPL, and that we are using this script to run the slideshow, and also that it has this timer script as well, and trying to make it understand that it should be acting as an interactive programmer, and yeah, also giving it the context of that it's the VS Code API that's being used, and like as humans, the AI is very confused about which commands are actually available in VS Code. This part of the VS Code API is not documented very well as well at all. But this is how you do it. So I tell it to do that. And yes, also this I tell it to show us the results in a visual way. So I don't know if you noticed that it popped up information messages to the right here when it was working. But otherwise it just works in here, and it's very opaque what it's doing. So I'm trying to give it that context here as well. And also it shouldn't go, and this is specifically for Claude Sonnet, because it's very wild. So it starts updating files and goes crazy. And it even did that now when I wanted this to show us the code. It didn't have to actually create a file for it. But anyway, I'm trying here to convince it that it should be a user on demand thing to start editing the files.
So in principle, it could try many things and fail and try and fail and learn from that and
Yeah,
have context.
it probably did.
We will
Yeah.
see that. We will see everything.
Yeah, because it's like hidden under these here. It didn't fail as much as it usually does when it does this, but very often you can see it. Let me try something more. Let me fix that error or whatever. And I don't know, not always sure why it thinks there is an error, because I see the thing working, but it is actually like behaving a bit like an interactive programmer, even if a more confused one than most people you have met. But yeah, so that's a demo of CoPilot being an interactive programming. In this case, it was like extending this code for us, but of course we could try other things as well. I hope it made some sense what was happening. Thank you for the summary, Daniel.
One question.
Yes.
You have integrated closure docs for Backseat driver. Is it configurable? Could you provide other resources, other URLs, for example, or is it just limited at the moment to closure docs?
Yeah, so it's limited at the moment to closure docs, but it already has tools for fetching arbitrary URLs. So for the closure docs tools that it has like a symbol, and then you can just look it up via that tool. But it also can fetch any page. But yeah, if that's a very good input actually. So maybe we should give it a configurability around which resources it could be looking with these symbols. That should be pretty easy to add actually. But then we're back actually a bit to the experience reporting here. So to my experience, it's very seldom I see it use these tools. I need to tell it to use the tools. Because it seems like the LLM thinks it knows everything. So even if it doesn't, it rather hallucinates than uses some of the tools it has available to educate itself.
Arrogant programmer.
Yeah, some programmers are like this as well, but it's a bit frustrating to see it. Okay, actually you could have asked me, you could have asked that tool, but it doesn't. It just like stupidly goes on and thinks it knows everything already. So, and that I think is also a skill issue from my side, because in Backseat driver, when it provides the tools for the AI, the tools comes with descriptions, right? Like small nuggets of prompts in a sense. How should it use this tool? When should it use it? And yeah, so maybe, and I would like your help if you're so inclined to look at the source code and see how the tools, we can do that now also, see how the tools are described to the to the AI, and if we can do improvements there to make it use the tools. I think there's a lot of improvement there. As I mentioned with the bracket balancer, it just like it's total failure. It never uses it, and even though it like struggles on and on sometimes with the brackets, it just like doesn't figure out that it should use the bracket balancer tool. So yeah, there's lots of room for improvement there in describing how Backseat Driver is describing its tools. I think yeah, so here you can see that with every result Backseat Driver gives back, it also sends a note. Remember to check the output tool now and then to see what's happening in the application. And we actually saw it use the output, fetching REPL output one time. But that's very seldom I see it use that. And of course, maybe this time, maybe there's a bug there because it should be. No, it just is since line. Okay, maybe it's. Yeah, I don't know. It should have had output in there. But anyway, generally having it use the tools it has available is unsolved so far there, really. I can, for some reason, the REPL, it figures out I don't need to tell it use the REPL all the time. Sometimes I need that, but so once it has started that seems to work for it. But the other tools, I don't know why it's so hard to make it actually use them. Talking about contexts, so yeah, we should talk a bit about this as well. But anyway, if we go to when it comes to contexts, I have tried in some test projects to see if I could encourage it to act more smartly around with the REPL and actually use it to explore in small steps. It doesn't really seem to understand the concept of small steps. It's just like, okay, I sure I do that in a small step, and then it writes a huge file and gets the brackets wrong, and so. But this is one attempt with some success where I have managed to. So we could try these instructions in some blank projects and see if it does anything, if you think that's interesting. And this one has a second part as well, where I tried to make it use like inline def debugging techniques as well. And also with some success. So I don't know if you think we could take these instructions with us, and we can create a mini closure project. We can take a random directory for that. Yes. So now we have created like a blank mini project. So it only has this file here, and we could give it CoPilot instructions.md. Is that correctly spelled? I think so. And we can paste the instructions in here and go here, and we can remove that. Hey, CoPilot, are you ready to do some interactive programming? Anyone have an idea what we could ask it to do, or should we allow it to show itself?
some simple game or something?
What kind of game?
Tic-tac-toe, or I don't know.
Snake is pretty good also.
Say again?
A snake.
Snake, yeah.
A snake game. Let's see if we can. So, do you think you could build a snake game for us? No, I'm in ask mode here. So it should be in agent mode. And stop it. And I just reloaded it. Now it's in agent mode. Snake game challenge. Let's approach it incrementally. Probably got that from the instructions that we provided to it. And here you see, like it really doesn't start very minimal, or yeah, maybe it initializes, it validates the initial code. Here, the discussion about like the safety mechanism. So if we look at the tools that Backseat driver has available, so it has these tools, evaluate closure code and all that. But if we go in here and say Backseat driver, and we disable this tool and look at the tool set, now it doesn't have that tool. So that's the first like safety mechanism. But then CoPilot also has these levels here. So it asks me for everything it wants. We can try that mode a while because it will be more obvious what it tries. So it will try to initialize this namespace. And now it creates, like, this shouldn't work, I guess, but it will notice that, I guess. So it should, maybe, I don't know what happened there. Now, yeah, so now it tries to load the namespace instead. And now we should be able to load the game state and evaluate that to see. So it's actually exploring in a sense. So now it feels ready to implement the core game features. So now you see it's working with the file more, but it is to some extent working in rich comments. But yeah, it's I've tried to instruct it to start in rich comments and then move things out of the rich comment block as they mature. But I fail to instruct it. So it's just like, yeah, this is what it calls small steps. But I think this is a lot of a skill issue from my side. So part of it is depending on the model we're working with, a lot of it is on the user and the prompting skills. So I'm ready to let it go at it in this session. I have made a backup of my machine recently. So now we're in sort of YOLO mode here. If it decides to wipe my hard disk now, it will do that.
Yeah, while it's doing that, maybe I'm wondering, can we understand the process? I mean, it is not a question about backseat driver. It is a question about how these agents work. And maybe that's a topic for a future meeting. But
it is relevant. It's relevant here. Really super relevant.
I mean, probably it is a stateful process where at any given point in time, there is some representation of a work plan and of the next step. And then we get some outputs and then we update the state, right? And is that transparent to us?
Is it a question to me or to everyone?
To everyone, and I'm not sure we should dive into this question at the moment. I'm just wondering, right? And yeah, it is not a question about the backseat driver. It is about these tools and how much we can work.
It's relevant to backseat driver in the sense that if we understand this correctly, then we can probably give the tools and backseat driver good descriptions, like based on our knowledge and on a correct knowledge about how it actually proceeds. So I think it's, and also of course for a repository of prompts and stuff like that, it would be really good to understand this. It's the snake successfully ate the food, grew, and score was incremented. Now let's implement a user interactive version of the game, it says. Oh, maybe it's doing that, I don't know. We can let it continue. Yeah, we could. I would like to understand this. How, because the way I've been thinking about it, at least, is that because I've been working sometimes with the APIs, OpenAI APIs and other APIs, and then what you have is a log of all of the whole chat session, right? And so it's like it's messages in this log, and some of these messages are of system nature, and some of them are of session nature, the discussion. And it's obvious that the parts that you send that are like user configuration prompts, those get taken into consideration for every message that it processes. Wow. I don't know how I should steer it. Interesting. And then it's stateful in a sense, but it's also like a stateless protocol, at least, that you're using. So you're sending it the full context every time, and it builds up a state, a context from that, and then it responds with something that gets added to this log, and then I add my messages to that log, and everything is sent back again. I don't know if that's touches what you were asking about, Daniel.
I think that is something we can hope for, but probably in some modes of Claude and whatever that we use, we don't have this transparency, as far as I understand, and that's confusing, right? And yeah,
there's a lot of non-transparency in the usage of the tools. Totally agree. And it's frustrating when you try to use the tools. It's frustrating when you try to develop the tools as well. But
Yeah, and possibly we could create a certain mode of usage, the way we use it, where what we ask is just what would be the next small step, right? And what is your current work? Or could you propose a work plan, and so on, right? And maybe we could have a set of tooling that would support this stepwise mode of work, right? For the user.
Yeah.
Henning is going to ask something, sorry.
Yeah, observing the workflow here, what comes to mind is that working with this in a manual mode for a while, I experienced the same as the tooling, but the true epiphany is working with, for instance, Claude in extended thinking mode, and you can see the reasoning forth and back. It's talking to itself before it proposes a condensed and states an official say to what you ask for. And extended thinking, the reasoning while gathering facts, and it appearing it has a conversation with itself before it decides the final bullets, the final answer, the final output. That's helpful to understand.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we have, we don't have any thinking. I think these are like hybrid thinking models here in agent mode. But if we would be in this mode here, then we have a thinking model. I think that behaves more like you're describing there, and I totally agree. I've used Grok at times, and also ChatGPT in the web interface. That feedback of its thinking process is very useful for your next question to it, or your follow-up.
One way you could benefit from here is to take a look at what GPTL for Emacs does, the same kind of tool.
Which
it has a much more crude interface. It has nowhere near the possibilities that you have here with Visual Studio Code. But it presents the extended thinking as a reasoning block in Markdown before it comes, and it can extend that for a long time. And sometimes you can see it just iterate itself, and it's reconsidering, and it's adding precision to what is already written, doing it over and over. And then at the bottom, suddenly it changes from reasoning Markdown to output Markdown.
Yeah,
reading that backwards makes gives some kind of transparency and insight into how it's thinking and what reasoning before the answer was made.
So can you post a link to that? Because I think it could be useful when developing on these tools to have sort of an inspector, a reasoning inspector. But we could go back a bit to here. Yeah, talk a bit about other parts of like what the experience I have had. So that's mostly what we have so far. So my take here is that at least in CoPilot, the models are very differently configured. So I think that I am ready to conclude that these two models are more or less useless, and it's not just for REPL usage. It's just like any usage. They are lazy, sloppy. I don't know. I think they are like configured in a very cheap way. This one is kind of new, GPT-4.1, and it's better, much better than the other OpenAI models, but I think it's still way too lazy and sloppy. Gemini 2.5 Pro I mean, I was like a child on Christmas Day when that arrived. Thought like, now we get Gemini 2.5 Pro power in CoPilot, but that was very wrong, because this configuration is also very tuned down somehow. So it's not at all what you get in the web interface with Gemini 2.5 Pro. These two models are the ones that works best. This one is a bit faster, a bit less crazy. This one is the one I use most, even though it is a bit on the crazy side of things. It gets very carried away. So you need to stop it and very often and start new sessions and all that. This one is added like yesterday or something, configured so that you hit the rate limit immediately. So I haven't been able to try it. So yeah, so it depends a lot on the models. And then my ask to you is that if you try this and you try it with other tools as an MCP server, stuff like that, I'm dying for feedback how it works with the models in those tools and stuff like that. So, and the voice mode is not just cool when making demos. It for me, especially with interactive programming, the REPL sessions, I find that the voice mode works much better for me. I don't know why, but it's something with the way I think, and then I can just say it, and it's different from typing. And feedback is actually the key here. So I know that Sean Corfield said that he has like instructed Backseat driver or CoPilot to always run the tests like for each iteration. So it works in a very test driven way, and then it gets feedback from the test. And that I heard that from one more user as well, that works really good. So maybe that speaks for that we should have a testing tool in Backseat driver that's both more safe to use and also actually may provide a lot of this feedback that is crucial for it to take the right decisions. The output tool, as I said, it doesn't really realize when it should use it, or it never thinks. It seems like it never thinks about using that tool. So I don't know. I have work to do there with the configuration and description of the tools, but also I think what Daniel is there, like understanding how this actually works behind the scenes, probably could help. I have tried with having it work inside rich comments, more like I would do, or some human pair programmer I'm working with would do. So it would also see more what it's doing, more than just evaluating stuff inside here very opacely. And so, but it has a bit of varying success with that. I have tried to make it use inline depth, but sometimes that works a lot, really, really good. It understands it and it uses it to understand how it should fix and extend functions and stuff. I also tried to tell it to use snitch, but with some success. But snitch is actually not needed for the AI. The AI has no problems with just writing tons of inline defs. So inline defs is a better path, as is my experience. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that very often it doesn't have any sense for what it is evaluating. So it's evaluating stuff that comes back with huge results. And if it does that a few times, then it fills up the context window very fast, and it starts to just totally misbehave. So that is a bit unsolved. Maybe some of that could be via prompting. I don't know how that should be solved. But anyway, the REPL results, they grew the context, and quite often bad things happen there. Feedback doesn't really seem to understand the value of feedback. I don't know how to express that, but it is, I can clearly see when it's using the REPL and failing at things it tries to do, then it gets back an error message, and then it uses that, but it doesn't know to pull feedback. So that would be really good if we could figure out a way to make it pull for feedback. And as you saw, it doesn't understand the concept of small steps. Bracket balancing, I don't get it to understand to use it automatically. And even when it's using it doesn't apply the results correctly. So it says it's using the bracket balancer, then pastes unbalanced code still into the buffer. So I don't. That is probably improvements in Backseat driver we can do to make the bracket balancing work. So I think lots of it is, as I keep coming back to, skill issues on my side, on us as users.
One thing I note also is that while I use Aider or whatever tool to generate some code, it seems kind of impossible to get rid of the sort of trailing white space on empty lines.
Okay.
That is actually like one thing. I have this Emacs mode which will put like red if there's empty white space on the lines between code. And there's always that in the output. And I can actually then see that, okay, this code has been written by AI now in the code base as it's written red that way, because the formatter on the Emacs, for example, gets rid of that. But yeah, there's some quirks in that it doesn't work if you instruct it to avoid that, for example.
No.
There are some kind of issues with that.
It's general, right? Instructions for the AI to not do something doesn't work. I mean, you can try to make it draw an elephant without draw a room without elephants, and it will draw a room with elephants. So so we need to find other ways to deal with that. Is this a problem for you with the trailing white spaces, or just like a curious thing?
Yeah, it was more of a curious thing, but there's also, I've seen the similar kind of a thing with the bracket balancing, or in Aider there's the linter connected to the output, and it always gives you a linter error if it has failed linting, and asks do you want me to throw it back to the AI to fix it? And that's one thing.
So, with the linter, it's very good that you mentioned that, because CoPilot has the linter tool. Like it has a lot of tools provided, and I think get problems. So with Calva, that means that it will see CLJ Condo output when it uses that tool, but again, it doesn't understand this, so it doesn't use the tool for most of the time. It just edits the file and then assumes it's correct. It doesn't lint it like so. sounds like Aider has solved that better. That it's not the AI choosing to run the linter.
Yeah, right.
So
one other thing that comes to mind from regarding the feedback and the use case of the editor, I've been often using the VS Code debugger while using Aider.
VS Code what?
The VS Code debugger.
Yeah.
For example, PHP or Python.
Yeah.
I guess Calva has some kind of step debugger also. I'm not totally familiar with that, but one like manual thing to do often is that generate something, see that okay, it almost works, but there's some weird bug. Then go to manually step debug the thing, and then provide the results after seeing that okay, you got like this variable wrong on this line, and then that often like helps it out. But yeah, I'm interested in what kind of what is the Joyride's capability? Could it also like hook into that step debugger and sort of like go on that level? It would be a little bit similar to like this kind of a REPL driven thing, but it would be interesting if it could make like that kind of analysis of the steps on the code on some certain function or something like that.
Yeah, so I think the answer is yes, that should be possible to do. Like if VS Code has API for stepping the debugger, then Joyride can do it. But anyway, that's part of this inline depths thing. So if you see here, so here I have instructions for it to use that. So that is debugger, but it's not like locked in its execution, right? It's while the application is running, which has the problem that you only get the last iteration of something, right? But I have instructed it to do stuff like this. So if it's interested in some particular iteration, then it should only inline def this transaction. And at times, as I've actually seen it use this to much quicker arrive at something that works. So yeah, I guess I think this is more at least quicker way to achieve it than trying to go via the step debugger. It's also a thing that in Calva you don't have a step debugger for closure script. You only have that for closure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's a bit different kind of environment. Anyways, it's often functional code. It's maybe more easier to have that state before going into the function more cleanly. With the, for example, we're debugging like some WordPress API, how things go inside there. It's pretty complex objects coming, which you don't really understand what is going on inside, and a lot of global state and all that. So
yeah.
May I please ask you what's your general trust in these tools?
Yeah.
Because the more, as someone said here, the more I study the basic concepts, the more I see I can't trust this, because these tools are just probabilistic, and when you give them too much power in this agentic way, and they are just like word salad generators, even in big data context. Not sure if we can get to anything really secure in this way, because they still have to hallucinate, because it's it's in their principle. They can't be like one-to-one copy of Wikipedia or GitHub. They should create new new data, because this is the point why they were created. But when they create new data, they are like not perfect in these. Yes, they are sloppy in these decisions. So what do you think about how far can we go with that, if it is even possible to make it really, like promised, what was promised? I tried a Replit in a pro version, and it was terrible experience. Even it should work. It was very simple, like here, and I never finished with anything I could trust. So that's my question.
The question is, does it
By the
really
way,
save time?
maybe before you answer, Peter, I see the clock, and I think you need to go in a moment, Peter.
Yes.
So possibly this is the last question, and maybe you will also like to briefly conclude and say something for the end of this part. And thanks so much, Peter. And just wanted to say that.
Thanks for having me. I hope this made sense to you guys, and that you can bring something back, and that you will choose to engage a bit and help me with figuring out some of these unsolved things here. So trust, I guess it's like depends on what we mean with trust. We get a solution. Do we trust the solution? Is that's actually more of the context of your question there? Yeah. So because there is also this: do we trust it using the REPL at all? Because it can choose to delete everything.
That's another level. But
That's
that can
level.
happen too.
So there, I have found myself trusting it a bit, like trusting for the session, and it seems to be moving in very safety distance from those kind of things. But it's the things I have tried. Maybe if the task involves something that is closer to something dangerous, then maybe that's different. But as I said, I'm not a big agent user myself, but I think that's because I don't trust the solutions very much so far that I get from it when it's working on its own. So I'm using them more in ask mode, and getting some ideas how I could solve something, and then I mostly write that code myself, and it's very helpful when I have a bug, and then it sees things that I know. I work very much alone as a remote worker.
Sure.
So it helps me a lot there. So my so far I think it's super interesting thing, and I'm pretty sure that some of the problems are inherent, as you say, but there seems to be a lot of room left for improvement. So I think it will turn into something useful at some point.
Okay, thanks.
But that's my take. I mean, I'm sure a lot of different takes on that question. Yes, Daniel.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that in my head, it's like I can imagine that when I ask for something that answers in a because I use CoPilot a lot, because I'm mostly beginner, so I need it. But when it generates text, it's okay. Or code, I can check it. It's nice. I can be inspired and everything. But when the text it generates is like it's like instruction to do something, it's worse, because when you turn the text into instruction, and we know that it can hallucinate in one word or two, yeah, even if you upload your own data, for example, book, and you ask about the book, and it answers completely okay, but with one word, for example, name, that's wrong, yeah, because it had some different probabilities of generating this name. So when this word is something that some steps are based on, then we are kind of, yeah, I don't want to be rude, but that was my point. Yeah. And thank you very much too. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. And thanks so much, Ludger and everybody. Some people may be able to stay longer, and we'll keep chatting. And yeah, that was really mind-opening.
So
And
if I stay a few more minutes, I would do very good at summarizing things, Daniel. So if you would if you would summarize, how would that sound?
yeah, so I think we got to experience a new way to use VS Code and interact with the REPL and have the agent, the AI agent that we don't understand so well. We have it be able to use tools we create, including the REPL, with some transparency. Is that right? And I think we did see part of the story, which is the CoPilot experience. And maybe another time we will practice it with Ada and the MCP server.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. So if someone as an AD user, yeah, I haven't actually. I should mention that as well before. There are actually another REPL MCP server out there. So it's an nREPL serve MCP tool. So if you give this MCP server to the AI agent, it will connect to your running nREPL server and evaluate code. So I imagine it's very similar to the Backseat driver experience, the REPL part of Backseat driver, but it might suit some workflows much better than, especially if you're not a VS Code user. So I think that could be good to know about. And also a very new thing, don't think this one is announced yet, even. That's these Babashka AI coding tools, which right now is a test runner. That's very easy for the AI to use. So it goes back to my experience with Backseat driver, that if I can get it to get into mode where it writes tests and run tests while it's working, then it has much more success quicker because of the feedback loop. So this is also, like, as I see, kind of a very safe way to use agent and give it more free access, right? Because running tests should be safe. So should be safer, at least. So yeah, I just want to mention those tools. So that would be I would like kind of a session like this where someone shows some other Ada cursor, whatever it is. But Ada, I'm very curious about Ada specifically. So to see that used together with these tools and Backseat driver would be super interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see from how I see it's yeah, step or two more automated from how it is with the Aider without using any tools or the tool calls or this sort of things. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how like a lot of what I manually just copy paste from outputted HTML from a web app after generating some code. Yeah, it's sort of manual progress, and I guess that keeps it more in control. That you also see that when, like, straight away when things go wrong, and can be much more specific with it. Yeah.
I often take screenshots and paste them to CoPilot.
Yeah.
That's also like a very quick way sometimes to give it feedback.
Yeah, definitely. And, yeah, in also the different languages, there's a lot of how difference for what I see, at least with these very like old frameworks. For example, it seems to be easier to get the things done when there's so many more examples on how to do things. So it's also a thing. Well, yeah, it was very inspiring to see the demo. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I need to run now. This was I'm so happy you were here, guys. And yeah, let's do more of these meetings.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, and for those who wish to stay, we can stay longer now and chat more and experiment more. And yeah, thanks again, Peter, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Yeah. So some other people may need to leave, I know. So maybe we could say goodbye to anybody who may need to leave soon. And for those who wish to stay, we can experiment with something or talk about anything we feel we've missed. I may have something to share, which is a continuation of last time, but maybe other people have something to share. You know, just try a certain session and, oh, thank you, Tomasz. And you know, try a certain session where we use one of these tools and wonder about what is happening, wonder together. So it could be a good time for anybody to share the screen and show something and be confused. And while we're still recording, we can also stop recording, and we can also, you know, just make this part of the recording internal and share it only internally. So I hope we can be, you know, as comfortable as we can, you know, trying anything we care about. So yeah, maybe does anybody have any other thought, anything about what we could do at this time? Yeah, so I could share something. So maybe in a moment I'll share the screen, and maybe I'll just mention a few conversations we had in previous meetings, meeting number 3 and meeting number 6. And these were the meetings where we had Kapil, who gave a couple of talks about the way we handle closure libraries with language models. And the point Kapil made was that somehow we could organize our knowledge about closure libraries so that we can conveniently create prompts, additional context that will be used with the AI tools for the relevant libraries for a given task. So we could begin with a task like a certain web development task or building a game or analyzing data and so on. And then we could use some existing knowledge to pick the relevant libraries and the relevant namespaces of these libraries and the relevant functions, and just have the relevant documentation or whatever as context for the AI tool. And that's, we did have, I think, 2 good conversation about that. I think, Jarko, you were involved in the first one, I believe, and Siavash was in the second one. So you may remember a bit of what Kapil and Ovi were talking about. And we could continue a little with that. And I could share a little example I have for those who wish to stay longer and just explore something. And everything I do here is really, really naive. I'm a beginner in using these tools. So probably a lot of what I do is suboptimal, and there are better ways to do these things. So yeah, I'll share the screen for a moment. Yeah, so you see my screen now. I'll just move a few things. Yeah, maybe I'll open Emacs. So, right, so maybe we have this collection of libraries for data analysis, for example. And in this notebook I've created, it was created by the Clay tool, I had a certain data set, the economic series data set, and I wanted to visualize it a little bit. And I'm browsing through a little bit, so the point is that the data set looks like that. And the variable here is a few economic series we may care about, and only one of them is maybe the one we care about, say unemployment. And I want to narrow the data set, so we'll only have the unemployment rows and then visualize them as a time series of, the change in unemployment in the US. And then, have different ways to view the time series in different time scales, and maybe also with a regression line and so on. So that was a little experiment. And I wanted to do that with Claude. And the problem was that I would need to use a few libraries like tableplot for plotting and tablecloth for table processing. And also I wanted to use the math library, which is even bigger and is not here. And out of the box, Claude does not know these libraries very well. And if I wish to create a good prompt for Claude for, using tablecloth, then it is actually a problem, because tablecloth has a huge code base. Some of the code base is complicated and refers to other libraries where the functionality is. And also the documentation is one huge notebook with many examples. And that is very often too much for the context that we can pass to Claude. And there are even worse situations. And one of them is the math and the statistic library, fast math, which is just too big to include in a prompt. And so I try to follow this conversation we had with Kapil and Ovi, and to create a set of prompts that I could use, which are only for parts of the problem, for certain tasks. So, I created this catalog, and I actually asked Claude to help me and extract some code examples from the huge documentation of the libraries. And so you see, we have certain files, markdown files, that have some context about more specialized tasks, like joining datasets or visualizing time series and so on. And we have some metadata, some annotation about them, like tags and so on. And then, I can ask for the list of all tags, which are basically all tasks we care about. And then I could pick just the ones I need for the task I have. So for example, I picked only these, like creating data sets and plotting trends and maybe aggregating data, because I wanted these for this notebook. And then what I did is I actually created the Claude markdown, the context for Claude's operation that I used. Oh, thanks so much, Henning. Right, so when you use Claude Code, which is one of those tools for coding, then you have this Claude MD file that includes the instructions, basically the context for using Claude. So I just spit whatever I found for, as a small context for this notebook. And this is how it looks. So there are some general guidelines that I asked Claude. Probably I should have more here. I'm just, a bit inexperienced. Never mind about the details now. And then just a few code examples for the relevant tasks that I collected with the relevant tags, right? So this is small. This is just a small context for the tasks that we need. And then I try to have this conversation. I told Claude a little bit above. I told Claude we have this data set called economics, and then I ask it, please show a few rows of the economics data set, and then it actually knows what to do because it has some of that in the context. And then I ask it, please show me the distinct values of this variable column, which is, the type of economic series we have. So it knows how to do group by and aggregate. That was actually, part of the context we passed with, and so on, right? So, and eventually, because Claude also knows a little bit about this plotting library that we use here, then it was a bit creative in being able to create these time scales and things I didn't know about, and that was kind of nice. And the context was enough for it to know how to use our API, the table plot API, for creating plots, but also how to extend that with whatever the JavaScript Plotly library knows, so it can have these sophisticated different timescales. So that was a nice surprise that it actually knew how to compose these things. And basically that is that, and if you wish, I could demonstrate the process by which I create this notebook, and I think it will raise a few questions, and probably you will have better ideas about how we could make a better process. Basically, what I did was every time I added this kind of line at the end of the namespace, Claude, please do something. And then in the Claude code terminal, I typed, please handle this file. And then, it just took care of whatever I'm asking. And that's it, right? So there is a lot to discuss about it, but to me, it looks promising as a way of collecting certain tasks and creating prompts for them and making it somehow usable and easy to find for the user. So that was a little experiment, and we could dive into that if we like, but maybe we could discuss, related hopes or related experiences you have, maybe before we dive in any further. Yeah. Can I ask if any of you uses Claude Code or Ada or other tools? I don't use them so much, so I'm always surprised by whatever they do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these experiments with the tablecloth and others. And I have been also making this sort of a library, for example, making sort of web components, you could say, or sort of these things to CMS system, which has its own APIs and few different ways to do things there. So often it is that I have those example sort of skeleton of how I want things to be, and then it can pick up from there. But yeah, certainly there's much more with the closure stuff that it's a bit tricky to know, like how could you aid it so that you get good results. But then, yeah, like there with the Plotly, yeah, that makes sense that it can sort of pick up from that side, then if it has enough understanding of the closure API that is on top of that. And yeah, I was interested in that actually to see. And also I guess the Vega is also a little bit similar library regarding that. And I've been looking into some project with related to Vega, actually from Python there's a little bit similar library to Hanami in Python world called Altair, and I hear that Hanami is using that as some kind of a as something that it got influenced from. So it would be also interesting to kind of see how the difference making the plots on that side would be comparing to Clojure, because that's like one point I try to sort of keep the project in a way compatible with the Clojure tooling in the like a longer term, but then initially prototyping with just a Django web application framework and these sort of tools where you can get a lot of functionality out of the box, and then it's often much faster to add features because there's much more examples of the particular solutions.
Yeah. Can I ask, is it a problem you experience where the libraries you need to use are just too big for the context?
It depends a bit because it clearly is often, it depends a bit. I also develop like more experimental projects, and there it's much more visible where it's like too much to, for example, one interesting example could be the PEL, which is the Lisp written in PHP. So in like a couple weeks back, one guy was actually successfully fixing some bugs in the FEL compiler side by running it through this deep wiki tool. It's some new one to me, but it appears to index the whole code repository, which was in that case, it was the PHP code base of the PEL Lisp. And it was very interesting that it could pick up these very nuanced, very simple bugs, like a human typo type of things in that context, like equality versus identity type of a mistake somewhere, and that kind of a thing. But that I haven't really myself yet used, like tried to have a big amount of context put into the system. It's often just expecting that there's like this basic mainstream framework, and then I have made some model extensions in whichever kind of a system it is. There's some way to input into the context the models that have been added. And then based on that, it's often easy to do the sort of a small adjustments and enhancements on the user interfaces and these sort of things. But they are quite simple use cases, but I've found that it's very useful in that sense to basically get code writing itself in many cases, when it's also been one point to like enjoy the not so interesting frameworks and tools more when not having to write the code yourself in those scenarios.
And probably everything you do with PEL, which is this Lisp over PHP, relies on the fact that the LLM knows PHP, right? That PHP is very familiar to the LLM, right?
Yeah, certainly. But it is, it's interesting to work in those kind of situations when there isn't, when making, let's say, the end REPL server for PEL, it's a constant thing that, yes, you can get a little bit of influence from closure libraries, and then on the other hand, you kind of have to learn to teach it how it looks, what are the possibilities, all the undocumented quirks and features that is sort of interesting to find out first yourself, and then to try to teach sort of those patterns to the LLM.
Yeah. I think, that's so insightful, I think. Yeah. Maybe if there isn't any other comment by anybody, then maybe it is a good time to stop the recording. And some people can stay longer. It is just something that, sometimes the conversation afterwards is even better. So if there isn't any other comment for now, we will say goodbye to our listeners and see you on the next times.